Orlando Bailey.
Dre, welcome to your home away from home, man.
Good, how are you? There's been massive investments in downtown, and they've been transformed. We're seeing this all across the country, and you know that has happened in Detroit, but you also know there's been incredible displacement. We've seen significant philanthropic investment in 2015 to 2020, and we've certainly seen some investment since the pandemic. And so what we want to examine is whether or not there are neighborhoods that have seen investment without the displacement. What's going on here that's not happening all across the country? And that's where you come in. We got the data, but we want to hear from the people. We need the voices of the people.
I was born in the west side of the Bagley neighborhood. Everyone knew each other. It felt safe. I was allowed to be out in the streets on my own as a kid, until the streetlights came on. It was a thriving, middle-class Black neighborhood where people knew each other and looked out for each other.
When I was there, neighbors were connected and it was a sense of community. When my parents left, it was more feeling of isolation. You didn't know the people across the street. You didn't know people walking up and down the street. It was a little scary, actually.
In my experience in doing surveys with the different residents, going from block to block in the neighborhood, I see now that people are becoming more social, more connected. I want to be part of this community. I want to see it better, for our children, for our seniors, even for myself. So if I'm going to live here, I'm not just going to, complain about it, but I want to be active with it.
Real estate development is a long lead business. It takes 2 to 3 years to ever see something come out of the ground typically. The question for me is what happens in the interim? And so for me, activation is that bridge. How do you kind of psychologically keep people interested? How do you psychologically keep people feeling like there's momentum in a neighborhood? And I think certain neighborhoods are way better at that kind of activation piece to keep people interested. Part of our job as developers is to really embrace the fact that people do have opinions. We're not coming here to check a box. We should have that dialogue to say, you may not agree with what I have to say, but at least we're doing this. We're talking. And that, for us, is community development. I'm not from Detroit, and I've been embraced. And I feel like I've never been in a city, ever, in this country that embraces who they are more than Detroiters.
I look at things through 2 different lenses. So there's the urban planner in me is wow, look at all this new development. The native Black Detroiter in me is there are a lot of people that are left out. So there's this assumption, I think, amongst planning practitioners that there's one way to develop and that everybody wants shiny new restaurants and high-end stores and bike lanes. It's assumed that this is the way good development looks. And I think that for people of culture, progress and positive development looks different or can look different.
I would like to think that it's going to come back, that there are people who are moving in who want to be there. I see changes on Livernois. When I was growing up, Livernois and the Avenue of Fashion was the place to be. It's exciting. It's exciting to see what is coming and what it will be again.
The business is doing very well. A lot of them is just opening, and they haven't. You can't estimate how well they're doing right now because it's still early. But I think it takes business for the neighborhood to grow.
What I really hope, sort of as a Detroiter, is that all of that can happen without losing the flavor and character of the neighborhood, and that any housing developments wouldn't look like developer speckles. So you couldn't drive through the neighborhood and go, oh, they tore that house down and then they put up this new looking house. Any investment would maintain character as opposed to just being strictly the cheapest thing.
The Strategic Neighborhood Fund actually is a testament to the fact that a return isn't possible yet. if this experiment, because it is an experiment, right? In every strategic neighborhood, we're saying we hope that the market catches up. We hope that we're developing a market. We hope that the market comes back. The market doesn't exist yet, is what the powers that be are saying. So if there's not a guarantee of return, there's a hope. And I think that we never see the potential, the opportunity, the hope of the return from people. It is easier to look at the finished result when it is physical because they can talk about it, they can see it, they can touch it, they can feel it. But if there's a young person whose life is changed, they can't put that in a report, right? That can't be part of the State of the City address. Like, it is harder to actually prove that you've done something if you can't see it, feel it, touch it.
Well, I'm excited about what I heard today. We know how to invest in place, but we don't necessarily know how to invest in ways to keep people in place. We don't know what's going to happen moving forward here in the Livernois-6 Mile area, but I'm encouraged by what I've seen. We got to keep this conversation going.